Alright, time to get this stream started. Hopefully everyone's had a good week so far. We're on Thursday now. Getting closer and closer to the weekend. Alright. Tonight I am delving back into my Dark Tower defense game in gdevelop. I need to see where I left off. I was making a video earlier, so I have to readjust all my settings here. Cheers. All right. So where I left off was I implemented a UI piece for the player to be able to click on an enemy and see some of their stats. So nothing like totally wow, but something that was very needed in the game. So for example, here they come, click on it, you get a little panel. And at the moment it's just showing these 4 stats, and so we can see the health on these guys is 2. Some of the numbers are actually on them as well. Health is 3 because they're wave 3, but later on obviously it's going to be changing a lot. So that was something I worked on, and I think the shield is still not working quite properly. It's working on the UI, but there's a bug with the shielding in general. So I'll see if I can work on that tonight. And I'm also going to modify the arcane shot. So I'm going to start with that one, I think. The arcane shot is supposed to be like an intelligent piece of ammunition, but if I pull that up, there's something I don't like about it. I mean, that's at super close range, but I think instead of picking a coordinate and then firing off and hoping it hits the enemy, I think I want these to home toward the enemies. So I'm going to modify the targeting here. Make it more of a smart shot. The arcane tower is, in my game, it's not elemental, so it can actually pierce. There are no resistances to the arcane. It's just pure magic. So fire isn't resistant to it, ice enemies aren't resistant to it, etc. And it also never misses. I think that's kind of how I'm going to package up this arcane tower. So I think right now I just have it set to create the shot and then tween it over to a coordinate. But I want it to continue to update that coordinate as it moves. So let me navigate down here. And with that being the case, so right here it fires the bullet. And then it creates the bullet, it fires it off toward this position. I think what I'll do is I'll try leaving this intact, and then I'm going to tell it to check the scene for any of these bullet arcanes, which is right here. And then if there are any, excuse me, I need it to so it's creating some particles, it's creating some lights. Arcane particle light. That's fine. And then what else? And what else? I could try like a move. So if I go out to the bullet, to the bullet itself, right here, look at the behaviors. We have destroy outside, fire bullet, and sticker. I think I could add, was it movement? Might even be the pathfinding. It's a little more robust than just linear movement. So max speed 200. Probably quite a bit faster. So we would say more like, keep it relatively slow at the start at least, and yeah, let's just try that. Let me just try a new sub-event here. In fact, I want to move some of these events down below. So let me, excuse me. I'm going to copy and actually I'm going to cut and paste these out of here. Paste them right here. And then I'm going to tell it to move. Actually, let me select the bullet. And then move to a position actually repeat for each instance of bullet arcane. So we need a target. We need to pick an enemy. Oh, I know what I'll do. So if the number of enemies on the scene if that number is greater than 0, then, and only then, will I I'll need to pick the enemy that is closest to either to the tower or to the end. And this can probably be toggled during the gameplay, but for now I just need to pick one and go with it. So I'll say closest to the end. So pick nearest to the object. If the enemies pick the object of this type that is nearest to, yeah, so the enemy that is nearest to the end dot center X and the end dot center Y. And this is where we will add the actual pathfinding movement. So let me select the bullet. We will move to a position. The position will be the enemy. Okay. And also, I want to increase the range at which the tower will fire on the enemies. So right now it's a little bit short. So the tower head arcane dot range. Let me set that. Is that a global? It's not a global. That's an object variable. Seems like that should be a global one that we can upgrade later on. So the tower head arcane range. Yeah, coughing tonight. But what else is new? I think I'm going to add this. So this would be global tower arcane, I guess range, and I'm going to set that to, right now I just want full range, so I'll just say like 2000, something crazy, or I guess 1300 should do the trick. And here I'll just tell it to look for that variable. All right. And having done that, I can probably remove that previous variable. So it's not on the bullet. It should be on the tower itself. But which one? The tower base? That would be on the tower head. It's gotta be. Right here. Variables. Range. Okay, we do not need that, and it was set to 400, which is pretty low. That may be like a starting value, but ultimately be much longer. And let's test. Why not? That's what we're here for. Getting some very interesting behavior. I think I know why. I did not even consider this. But using that behavior, my bullets are going to be bound by the same pathing that the enemies are bound. That's interesting. That's interesting. Not what I was intending, but that could open up some interesting scenarios. So it's going to have to navigate along the same pathway, or, you know, it's going to try to maybe find some other ones. But these are basically like summoned minions now. So this would be more akin to like a, you know, flaming skulls or something like that. Going out and hitting the enemies. I disabled having them delete when they are in contact, so I need to re-enable that. Let me go back up. Enemies and arcane shots. Right here. Let's re-enable this. And let's see how that looks. Not what I was intending, but this could be interesting. There's also obviously some kind of a bug going on because some of my arcane shots have the that big thick particle, and some of them only have this smaller one. So I need to fix that. Alright, so it's kind of just all over the place. Let's see, I want to maybe start with the... I'm just trying to think, something like that, where the player's shots actually navigate on the same pathway as the enemies, and only on that pathway, really, because it can't cross the barriers. That means, and here are the barriers I'm talking about. I'll show you. Not that one. It's one of these. Well, if I scroll up, I can probably figure that out. What level are we on? This is level 6. So, what are we doing for level 6? Enemy barrier number 6. That would be this one here then. So that is the limitation that my shots would have. They have to follow that path. So whether or not I want to use that here for this tower or not, I don't know. But if the enemies are coming down, those bullets would continue until they find one, until they find an enemy and hit it. Some of them just shoot off this way, which wouldn't work too well. They just kind of get lost. Probably need to add like a time to live on it so that if it gets lost and never finds an enemy, it will eventually delete itself. So in this case though, what I want to do, what can I do? Let me open up this barrier object. Open up the barrier object and see what we've got here. So it is impassable. I don't want to inflict damage. Like I could make it destructible, but that's not really what I'm going for, because that's going to maintain the pathway for the enemy's navigation. So let's pull this up one more time. So for example, if I place this right here, select the arcane tower, send in the enemies. I need to maybe increase the rate at which the enemies are coming out. Let me do that real quick. That would be here at the top of the scene. Right here. Spawn delay is 3 seconds. Let's drop that down to 0.75 seconds. And then let's also... I want to fix the particles because some of them have some of the particle emitters and some of them don't. So that one, why did that just go through? That's odd. So that one has the big thick particle emitter. This one does not. And they seem to wait about, like, I don't know, a fraction of a second before they actually obtain that other particle emitter as well. So let me... And then sometimes they shoot through the barrier as well. It's pretty odd behavior. I'm going to go down and check on the particles. So that would be down here. Well, I added a lot recently. Not these. Let me search arcane. Particle arcane shot. So this is probably the big thick one. So let me search for that. Let me search that name in my events. Hopefully everyone's been having a good week so far. It's Thursday. Almost to the weekend, people. Almost to the weekend. And if you don't work weekends, that's a good thing. If you do work weekends, that sucks. And I just found an instance where it's disabled, fortunately, but I found an instance of a variable that I deleted that it's trying to call here. So that would be right here. So let me plug in my global variable that I just created so I don't get an error. I will disable that. That's going to be a really big area. In fact, let me test this out. This should draw a big circle. That is the radius that this tower can reach. In this case, it's the whole scene. So yeah, I'm going to disable that. Don't need that. Anyway, go back to the search I was doing. Paste that in there. Search. And it is right here. This is where I create that particle. So I'm creating that particle right after I fire the bullet, I change the Z order and the scale. And then I'm creating the particle and the particle shot, or sticking it to the shot. I wonder if it would be faster for some reason if I move that into the previous parent event. I don't think so. And I also wonder what the other arcane... I have another particle somewhere. Let me see what... if I look at under the particle emitters here from the free asset store, try to determine which particle emitter I probably started with. I'm thinking the one that I have right now, the big thick one, is probably this magic one, which has an abnormal core particle shape. But the other emitter that I have is using a perfect circle, which it looks like a flame. So let me search flame. Let me get rid of this. Go down here. Flame. And it would be purple. I made it purple. I just don't know what I named it. And that is what it was called, right? That was, yeah, basic flame and smoke, whatever. So, very interesting. Particle. Did I at least name it particle something? Particle arcane shot is the one we just looked at. Particles arcane hit. Those are the ones that emit from the enemies when they are impacted. So that's a different one. There is Flame Tower, Burning Flame, Holy Flame, Arcane Shot, Particle. Arcane Shot, Particle. What is this? This must be it. So it was not a particle emitter. That's why I couldn't find it. I outsmarted myself. So that is what this nonsense right here is. And that is fine. So I guess my question is really why then... So that's working. My question then is why is this bullet arcane particle emitter right here not always instant? Let me pull this up again, see if that made any difference whatsoever. I'm skeptical that it did. So what I'm looking for is to see if it has that really cloudy looking particle emitter attached to each shot. Like that one does. That one does. That one does not. So if I pull up the debugger here, it's also constantly adding lights. I need to change that. It should only have one light. It's a huge performance hit. All right, so over here on the inspector, I'm just looking for the number of the arcane particle. Whoa, and look at that. That is insane. In fact, it just crashed my console. It said that there were 1,094 or something of those particle, I think of the particle emitters. So let me check on that. That is terrible. Okay, so right here it should be creating the particle arcane shot. Let me do a search again. Particle arcane shot. So it is only right here. And I only tell it to create one at the time that a bullet is firing. After it's created, it shouldn't keep creating. So down below, if the number of the bullets is greater than 0, then repeat for each one. Here we have it creating these other things. And I guess I could add a check here for if the time scale is not equal to 0. In other words, not paused. So that should help a little bit with performance, particularly when it's paused. I just don't want it to bug out, but doesn't really solve my problem. Let me double check the debugger here when I run it again. Okay, let's refresh that and build the tower and call in a wave. So right there, we've got, it's continuing to add the particles, but let me look at the actual emitter, the number of emitters. So what I'm looking for is arcane particle shot, something like that. In fact, it would probably help if I look. If I look at arcane shot particle, we can see if my check just now worked. I mean, it looks like it did, but it's kind of hard to tell. The debugger is bugging out today. It says no preview running. I have a preview. I have a preview. I'm gonna have to search quickly before it bugs out. Okay, go down. So bullet arcane, it's saying there's only one bullet arcane. Oh, now there's two, okay. So 2 of those. There are 4 bullet arcane lights. Why are there 4? I'm gonna have to make a note of this. Because I don't think that I'm supposed to have twice the number of lights. I really didn't know I had all these bugs with it, so I guess it's a good thing I'm looking into it. Gonna grab a pillow to sit on. Okay. Deep breath. Peaceful thoughts. So if the arcane shot particle exists, it's tweening the scale and the color. That seems fine. And then there's a time to live, which will delete them every quarter second. So this is why it's okay that we're creating so many. They're just going away. But I wanted to add the check to see if it was paused or not. Really need to add that check way up above as a big parent event. This is just how it goes sometimes. You make some progress and then you hit a bump in the road. But I did two things. One, I determined which arcane particle I was looking for. And I determined that the other particle is not an emitter, it's just a manually created particle here. So I know how to find that one. And so repeat for each instance of Towerhead Arcane. If it's not frozen, and if there are enemies, pick the one that's nearest to the tower. And then if the enemies are within range, it's firing the bullet. Then Z order, scale, add particle, create object, particle, arcane shot. Now that's the one that was showing. No, that one was fine. Particle, arcane shot, stick it to the bullet. Now sometimes that's not spawning, and I don't know why. Then if the variable has light of the bullet is false, it's going to add the bullet light. Okay, so we do need the two different lights, and that isn't by design. Because I'm adding one on the base layer and one on the lighting layer. So that's actually good. That's not a problem. But I'm pretty sure if I pause the scene. Hey, Riley Parker, how you doing this evening? If I pause the scene after the bullets are fired, that one there clearly doesn't have the cloudy particle here. It seems to be that only one. First of all, let me get rid of this, the barrier layer. It's kind of in the way. It seems to be that only one bullet is allowed to have the particle. And I wonder if that's the case. One. And then it moves back. Sometimes it seems to move back to the next nearest one. But I'm pretty sure I'm never seeing two on the scene at the same time. That is pretty weird, but that might be helpful in figuring out the problem. So I'm going to drag this up here. Let me move the particle creation events down below into a sub event, and I'm going to disable that momentarily. Let me just double check what this is looking like. That was probably a bad placement. Move that further up here. Arcane Tower, spawn the enemies. So without that big particle emitter, this is what we're working with. So those are fine. Maybe I'll just move this entirely out of here. So if I disable that or undisable that, enable it, and then move it down here where it checks for each bullet on the scene. I'm going to paste it here, but I need the object, the bullet object, to have a Boolean to tell me whether or not it needs that. If that doesn't do the trick, then I'm going to be very sad. Okay, so towers, tower heads. We're looking for tower head arcane, variable, add variable. Actually, before I do that, let's put this on the bullet. So this will be has particles. As a Boolean, started out as false. Go to the events here. We already have the creation event. Let's add a condition. This will be for the bullet. Variable has particles. If it is false, then create the thing. and then change that Boolean to true. This has got to work. Here we go. Beatbox Kid, how you doing tonight? And what's the hey cookie? I want a cookie. You know who I am. If the variable is false, create the particle arcane shot at the position, bullet, arcane, center X and center Y on the base layer. Stick that particle arcane shot to the bullet and then flip the Boolean. I did not mean fraud. They never do. B-Box Kid, did you know you have a Darth Vader face and a Raphael head? I'm gonna have to log a message to the console here just to check if this is even coming through as true. I'm just gonna say yo to myself here in the console. Let's see if this registers as true. So it'll show up right down here. I'll wait for everything to load in. And then create the tower, select arcane. Okay, so if I pause that there, that event is registering as true. And it almost looks like there's a particle emitter right here. It looks like each time it's created, I don't know if you can see this, it's stopping right here. It's not traveling with the bullet, and then it's deleting. I wonder if that is the case. Beatbox Kid, you make YouTube videos also. What do you make YouTube videos about? So there's one sitting right here and I need to track it down. Not a video, a particle emitter. You make videos about spicy food. You're braver than I am. Arcane shot particle. It says there are 36 of these. But that's not the one I'm looking for, I don't think. I'm looking for a different one here. I'm looking for particle arcane shot. Everything's named so similarly, it drives me a little insane. Particle arcane shot. Okay, so right here, I tracked it down. There is one. If I hit unpause and refresh, it's now gone. So that seems to be the problem. They're not traveling with the bullets, they're deleting. And I'm getting some errors here. What is this? Source property must be a valid JSON object. One of these kids has a girl skin and she's wearing a red shirt and she won't stop cheating. Well, Fortnite is riddled with cheaters. The thing about cheaters is they're not actually that good, which means you can out-strategize them. So if you can outsmart them, then whatever tool they're using to cheat or hack, you can overpower that. So if you're better at building around them and shooting down with a sniper or something, whatever you're best at, try to outsmart them. Or leave the game and find a new game. Okay, making progress on this bug. I'm not a Fortnite pro, but that's just how games are made. Trust me, I'm making one right now. If they're hacking, they're just using an app that they downloaded. They don't actually know anything. They're using an app that someone else made. And it also means that they're not good without it. Okay, so why would these not travel along? This is pretty odd. I haven't really had this behavior exactly. So creating the Parkane article right here should be sticking to it. Are they... Let me check the behavior on both the bullet and then also on that arcane emitter, the particle emitter. So particle, arcane shot right here, behaviors. It should follow the position, but it's not. That one is throwing me for a loop. So very interesting. What I'm going to do is I want to look for a skull. Now, because the pathing behavior of these arcane shots is rather interesting. Now I'm thinking adding basically summon flaming skulls, kind of like in Path of Exile. Add that into the flame tower. Could also do something like that, maybe under the blood tower. It could be like a blood minion, something like that. Let me go just shop around right now, because I'm kind of banging my head against the wall looking for this bug. But hopefully everyone's having a good Thursday so far, making it, we're over halfway through the week so far.
So again, that's good if you don't work weekends. And if you do work weekends, I appreciate it because you enable us all to go out and do whatever it is that we all do on the weekend, shopping or what have you. I'm going to log in here and do some shopping for assets. If I can remember my password. Not really sure what I'm looking for. Maybe something for like a summoned flaming skull type of thing. Because these are going to follow the path from the tower to the enemy. So this would almost need to be more like a trap that you place or something that would be placed on the path as opposed to a tower that's off on the side, because that doesn't work. It would hit a barrier and not be able to travel. And since this is a top, it's kind of a top down, but it's more isometric, but it's 2D. Oh, here, this is literally called Burning Skulls. Let's check this out. Since I'm using that style, I run into a little bit of a challenge. No matter what art style you pick, there's always some kind of a challenge you face. Like if you have unique hand-drawn art, it's very unlikely you can use much out there that isn't drawn by the same artist or team. In this case, I don't have anything like that. It's semi-realistic, 2D assets of 3D models, but because of the angle, I have to make sure that if it was a 3D asset, I capture the correct angles and so on. Anyway, let's see what this guy has. I wish it had like a preview. $15 to even get it. Contains 10 Burning Skull effects with transparent background, exported into animations. 25 frames. They are PSD and PNG sequences. Yeah, let's keep looking. Because I think it would be pretty cool to use the bug that I ran into with the pathfinding and use that to my advantage as a new type of skill and find a different workaround for my arcane shot. Because I can definitely manually tell the arcane shot how to find the enemy without using that particular behavior. Not a problem at all. All right, let's go over to itch. Search for the game assets. We'll pick, let's try top down. I'm going to filter it with skull. There's a lot of pixel art on here, but it's not pixel art I'm looking for exactly. Okay, I'm going to remove this skull filter. I'm going to pick 2D, top down. Let me just check something here real quick. Let me just check something real quick. I could probably even just mock up a quick thing here. I mean, like, literally, here's a skull. I just need to pick an angle. And then I need to tilt it. So then if this were rotated, oh, it's a little bit creepy like that. So yeah, I mean basically just this. So that could be my animation right there. So it spawns, and this is let me think. Be a lot smaller. Yeah, I think to get the look I want, I would need to move two angles at the same time. Which I could do. But I'd rather use Blender or something. It's not quite what I'm going for. So I'll come back next time, I think, with a game plan, because now I'm kind of all in on doing some sort of a flaming skull variant, whether or not it's literally a skull, because I figured out the mechanic for it on accident. So But I still want to fix my arcane shots, which I don't want them to be blocked by any barrier. So I'm going to probably have to manually update these. So let me find the pathfinding, which was this right here. I'm going to copy that and then disable the original and delete the event. So I still want it to pick the enemy, and then I want it to, I'll just change the position. So bullet, arcane. Oh, let me think. I could add a force to move toward an object. Haven't used this method exactly before, but let's find out. So this would be, I could do instant, which would be 1 frame. So every single frame, I could tell it to move like, like say 20 pixels. Let's see what that does. This should not be blocked by barriers. Let me slow it down so I can track this a little bit easier. Cut that in half. I'm trying to determine if it's tracking or not. Like, they're not missing, but I'm not convinced that they're actually homing. The collision just looks off. It's like this one over here is hitting to the northwest side of the enemy. But they're not missing, which is the most important thing. All right. So I'm just curious what happens if I if I do something like this. I put permanent and then add a trigger once condition. I seriously doubt this is what I want, but I've never done it, so I'm just gonna play around and find out. And then I'll know, and I can remove that condition and move it back to a single event rather than a permanent force. See, these should be hitting the front guy. And some of them did, but some of them didn't. I also I think I want to try to... I think I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw a line using the Shape Painter Arcane Tower from Tower Head Arcane, center X, and center Y to the enemy. This will visually help me to know which one they're trying to target. Let's put a thickness of, say, 2 on there and hit OK. Let's see if that works. Okay, it is not drawing, so let me double check my scene here. That is using the Shape Painter Arcane Tower. Do we have that here on the scene? Shape Painter Arcane Tower. We do have it. Why is it not drawing? Probably the trigger once. So, yeah, that's stupid. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so we have our line here. It's kind of faint, but we can see it. So that's going to tell us which one it thinks it's trying to target. Let me add the thickness. Let me bump that up to 3. So that now we can use that to determine which one it's trying to target and see where the bullets actually go. Oh. Kids, don't forget to stretch at home. Pretty quiet night tonight. Hope everyone's out there having fun. Not working too hard. Just hard enough. Alright, here we go. So why is that one not drawing? I think I want to test this from another position. In fact, I think I need to move this line drawing event up. This should be under... This should be right here. Except not necessarily nearest to the tower. We're going to go with end, center X, and center Y. Let's see if that works better now. It should work for each tower. There we go. Like, they're not wrong. I guess the tower targeting is fine. So I guess the last bug here was really just that particle emitter, which is so odd. I thought I was doing it the normal way I always do it. But it doesn't really look that terrible anyway, so do I really need to spend that much more time on it? I'm not convinced I do. I think I'd rather move forward, as is. Let's see, how much time do I have left here? It's 8. Getting close to time now. I'm going to call it a wrap. So all right, in summary, what we've accomplished tonight. I set out to have my arcane missiles actually home toward the enemies, as opposed to just fire once like a bullet, like a normal bullet, which has a chance of missing. In this case, the objective is to have it track the enemy. In fact, we could probably test this even better real quickly if I slow it way down. So I'm not sure if I slow this down to say 200 pixels per second. We have a couple of opposing forces here, or really they're working together, but they're from different sources. One is from the firing behavior. So let me set that to 200 pixels per second. The other is my movement. So I told it to move every single frame with a permanent force of 10 pixels. Let me double check if the number I just changed has any effect on it. Yeah, it's definitely slower. It's a very variable speed. Okay, so I kind of want to actually run one more test here. Let me add a sub event and just actually move the firing behavior down here and disable it. And then instead, just create the bullet. So I'll just create the bullet at the center of the tower. And put that on the base layer, okay. Then with that created, I'm changing the Z order and the scale. And then after that, the movement down here should take over at 10 pixels per second. Let's see if that works. Whoa. People, we have God beams. We have the ultimate tower. Sometimes bugs are features, and I guarantee you that's a lot more bullets right there than it looks like. If I pause that, it's going to show us a really big number. I think. What is that? Arcane, bullet arcane. Okay, well, it's not a really big number. Maybe they're slowing down. This is so bizarre. Wow. How weird. But now there are 31 of them. That looks a lot like that. Oh, what's it called? The Templar ability in Path of Exile. Holy Flame. It looks awesome, but this is not good for performance. That is incredible. What did I do wrong here? I did something amazingly wrong. It's because I told it to do this every single frame. So I need I think I was previously relying on the reload speed, but now there's not one. So I think I need to add a timer if I'm going to do this manually. So let's start an object timer. Or rather, check an object timer. So if the value of an object timer, we're going to pick arcane, tower head arcane. We'll just call it reload. And we'll say every, every 1 second, then it can fire. So it'll fire, and then it will do all these things, and then it will reset that timer. So start or reset an object timer for arcane tower. And I also need to start or reset it at the time that the tower itself is created. So let me scroll upward. Right here. Okay. Let's see if that makes it a little bit less insane. Looked cool though. Yeah, so they're moving more slowly now, which is the intention, because I'm just trying to track if they're actually following the enemies versus just shooting at them. So let me go back down and slow it down even more. All right, so right here, I'll just say 5 pixels per second. So obviously it's trying to still track this one, but other enemies are getting in the way and it's colliding on those. but we just saw it turn around. So it's definitely tracking. This is good. This is mission accomplished. If it completely misses, it will come back. In this case, let's see. So they have no target. I call in some enemies and they're going to turn around and come find a target. As long as they didn't go outside of the scene and delete themselves. So this is mission accomplished. We can speed them up if we want. That's easy. That might be an upgrade ability for the player as they play throughout the game. So right here, I'm going to call in an enemy. That's going to turn around. Now, it doesn't seem to have the best turn radius, but it still turned around and picked a target. So that's good. All right, I'm going to call it there, people. It's been a pretty quiet Thursday, and I hope that everyone has a fantastic Thursday night and Friday going into the weekend. And if I don't see you on here this weekend, then I'll see you next Thursday on my regular stream, just like tonight. Riley Parker, you have a good night, and I'll talk to you all later. And let me know if y'all have any questions or comments, and I will get back to you. Thanks a lot.